Hi, and welcome to Saturday Night Spiritual. I'm Reverend Sheena Metal, and this is Saturday Night Spiritual. And we're here the second Saturday of every month, 5 o'clock Pacific time. Everyone's welcome. I know here at Founders MCC and the Metropolitan Community Church denomination as a whole, everyone's welcome. But Saturday Night Spiritual is a special interfaith service for all faiths, so that everybody belongs seated at the same table. That is the idea of Saturday Night Spiritual and of interfaith spirituality in general. I'm happy to be here with you once a month doing this service. Our community page is at SaturdayNightSpiritual.com, and of course foundersmcc.org for the church. Also, we have a wonderful YouTube page and a fantastic Facebook presence. Please check that out to find out everything that we're doing, not just here with Saturday Night Spiritual, but our Sunday services and all of our other programs, everything going on with the entire pastoral staff, our Spanish-speaking ministries leader, Reverend Alejandro Escoto, and of course our senior pastor, Reverend Keith Mazingo. It's so great to be here with all of you, sharing this and having fun with you all. Saturday Night Spiritual was conceived. Next month will be 3 years by me and Reverend Keith and Reverend Alex to have a safe space, not just for our own MCC parishioners, but also to bring folks in from other faiths that wanted to sit and enjoy the warmth and the welcoming nature and the community spirit of what Founders MCC has brought to this community for over 50 years. I believe in the teachings of Christ, and as part of my spiritual palette, I believe that you can break the teachings of Christ into 3 things: community, connection, and love. I believe that community was such an important part of what Jesus was talking to us about, and to add other people into our spiritual palette, to bring in folks from other spiritualities, to me is the most beautiful thing that there is. So welcome, welcome, and welcome, and welcome. It's great to have you here. I am the interfaith pastor here at Founders. I'm honored to be doing this service for you every month and to be talking to you about something that I feel is important every month. It's always part spirituality. It's always part humanity. It's always part emotional uplift, because it's really important to me that I was just telling a client of mine this right before I started this service. We have 4 parts to us. We have our spiritual self. We have our emotional self. We have our intellectual self. And we have our physical self. And you have to get all those parts on board together at the same time to make a happy, healthy, well-rounded person. So here at Saturday Night Spiritual, as I'm delivering messages and my sermons every month, I'm thinking about how can I blend those 4 things together? How am I touching your soul? How am I touching your heart? How am I touching your mind? And how am I moving your physical being at the same time? That's very important to me. And very much what we're about here at Founders is healing the whole person, healing the well-rounded person. How do we take where we've come from and be proud of that? That's what we're talking about this month. Be proud of where you came from. How do we take that, and then how do we move that into the healing and the growth and the overcoming of the obstacles and the challenges to become a better version of ourselves? And that you don't have to let go of the things you are proud of, let go of where you came from if you don't want, in order to move forward in health and happiness and evolvement, and enlightenment. Does that make sense? Okay, let me give you an example. Let's use the example of interfaith. So I was raised, I was raised sort of Presbyterian-ish. My mother was a part Teachings of Christ Christian and a part metaphysician, later became involved in the New Age community, always retained her love of the teachings of Christ. So that was my background, was that metaphysical background, the love, community, and connection from Christ. Now, as I have evolved as a spiritual being, as I've embraced my interfaith spirituality, I have incorporated parts of Buddhism, Hinduism, my Celtic pagan roots, what the Irish call the old religion, all different kinds of things. It's just a spattering of things that I've picked up. I love things about some Judaism, some Kabbalah, little things I love from every direction, right? It doesn't make me any less who I was. It doesn't mean I have to renounce how I was raised. Now, some folks grow up and realize, I don't like how I was raised, and I want to renounce that. But I always say, even to those folks, what were the things about going to church as a kid? Even if you realize that kind of fundamentalist Christianity, Judaism, Muslim, whatever your religion was, that was you found very constricting and confining in your life. What did you like about it? You know, I have a lot of friends that have left the Catholic Church for whatever reason. And they, I always say, but what did you love about it? They'll say, I loved the incense. I love the saints. I loved gathering with community. Okay, fantastic. Just because we decide we don't want to say we are one thing anymore doesn't mean we can't be proud of where we come from. So instead of saying, I was a Catholic, but I hate that. How about, I was a Catholic, and I sure love the incense, and I love the saints, and I loved gathering with community. But I have now grown and evolved, and I have moved past that. And now I'm this. It's so important that we not try to erase where we came from. All of us in our life, right? This is a teaching planet. We're here to learn. We're here to overcome obstacles. We're here to fill ourselves with light and enlightenment. We're here to learn. So our path is supposed to be continually growing and changing and evolving. We're not supposed to be at 50 who we were at 5. We're supposed to be somebody who's had 45 years of experience, life experience in there. So we don't need to renounce who we were. You don't need to say, well, I grew up in this religion, but that's not who I am anymore, because let me tell you something. Look, MCC was founded by folks that came from fundamentalist Christian religions, that they left their churches or were kicked out of their churches for being different, right? Gay, queer community, and otherwise, for being different. They didn't belong in that church. But I bet every single one of those people, if you ask them, including our founder, Troy Perry, what were the things you loved about going to church as a kid? They'll all have stuff. So great. Love that stuff. Be proud of where you came from. Let's say you grew up very poor. My mom grew up so poor, she never had a Christmas present till she was adopted when she was almost 12. Every day was a struggle to find food, that poor. But when she talked about her childhood, were there things that she loved about growing up dirt poor in an Irish ghetto in Louisville, Kentucky? Yeah. Be proud of where you come from. I had 2 grandmothers. One was hopelessly poor, trying to feed her children, died working an assembly line during the Depression because she couldn't get the day off and her appendix ruptured. I am just as proud to come from her as I am proud to come from my adopted grandmother, who grew up very wealthy and was in the first graduating class of women to have a PhD from Columbia. You have to be proud of where you come from, because that's the base of who you are. Those are the seeds that grow. And there is nothing about your life. I mean, there are things that people do that they shouldn't be proud of, and I'm not saying that's not true. But there is nothing about your past that you should not be proud of. Because of that, you became who you are. And that means financially, it means culturally, it means spiritually / religiously. Be proud of where you came from, and be happy that on your spiritual path as you've walked it, right? You have evolved into a more enlightened person. You have become this person that you are happy to be at this place in your life. So I'm going to use the example of interfaith again. Just because you start one place spiritually, it doesn't mean you have to wind up there, or that you even should, because of all the learning and the growing and the evolving. But it also doesn't mean you should throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, I hate everything about this. It's not what Spirit wants for us. Spirit doesn't want us to look at our life and say, I hate everything about who I was. I hate everything about growing up. I hate everything about the church I went to. I hate everything about my family. Spirit wants us to move forward and add to our life, add to our path, add to our spiritual palette. But not try to erase the past. Be proud of where you come from. It's so important. This would have been a great thing for Mother's Day, right? But whatever, this week, the way the days worked out, this was the second Saturday of the month and Mother's Day was last week. Be proud of where you come from, because that is the seed that sparked it all. And Spirit, there's a reason why God, Spirit, Goddess, higher power, universe, whatever you call them, there is a reason why you were placed into the life you were placed into as a new human. There's a reason why you were put in that spot to grow from. Because that was the most beneficial place for you to be for your path, for you to learn and grow, for your life lessons in this lifetime. That is where you belong. So be proud of it. So we're going to relate this back to interfaith, because every month we talk about, what does interfaith mean? So when you're 5, right? Okay, so when I was 5, I wore these weird Wrangler corduroys because it was the 70s. And strange little striped shirts. I was a tomboy. So I always looked kind of like a strange little boy, and always tennis shoes. Would it be okay if I dressed that way my whole life? Well, sure. But no, I survived the 80s, and there was just some ungodly wardrobe choices there. And then the very pensive 90s, the 2000s, and the teens. Now we're in the 20s. Some things about me are the same, but many things about me are different because I grew. I'm not that little kid in Wrangler corduroys anymore. And I'm certainly not wearing those corduroys because they were like size 6X. In kid sizes, not adult 6X. You're not supposed to be who you are when you're 5. And neither is your spirituality. The same way that I don't still wear, burgundy cords. Although, maybe someday for a 70s retro party. I don't still only believe the things that I believed when I was that age. And at that age, I pretty much believed what I was told. I listened to my mom. On the occasions we went to church, I listened to the minister. I have to admit, and I always do, I remember the refreshments more than I remember the service. Being a Presbyterian, the refreshments were always amazing. I remember things I picked up from movies. My mom loved The Greatest Story Ever Told and the 10 Commandments. My mom loved the stories of the Bible, so we watched a lot of those. She especially loved Greatest Story Ever Told. She loved the story of the birth of Christ. She had a huge nativity she'd put out all over the, so in the dining room we had the table, and then around we had the hutches where she kept her, china and crystal, all that stuff. And there was always the nativity. Like the wise men were seriously really coming from the east because they were like in another room and it was everywhere. And I loved all of that. I didn't know at that time about Buddha. I didn't know about Krishna. I didn't know about Ganesh. I didn't know about the power of crystals. I didn't know what reincarnation was. These were all things that came into my life as I got older and then became the different pieces of the pie that we call interfaith spirituality. But still, when I watch something about the birth of Christ, or I go to a store and I see a nativity, I feel that stirring inside of me, that excitement, because I love that. That's an important part of where I came from. That was the first piece of my interfaith spiritual pie. And then you grow. And you move forward. And you pick up other things in your life, and that becomes your interfaith palette. I talk about this every month on Saturday Night Spiritual, and I probably will continue to for my entire life. You don't have to give up where you came from or what you love to adopt new things in your spirituality that you enjoy into your spiritual palette. And the same goes for your life. You don't have to give up who you are. You don't have to change your whole background. You don't have to change your whole childhood. You don't have to renounce everything in your life that's been fun or good or exciting because you've now decided there are other things in your life that are important. That is the beauty of our human and spiritual paths, both of which we walk simultaneously in every lifetime. We have a spiritual self, your 5D self. We have a human self, your 3D self. And what Spirit wants for us is for both our spiritual path and our human path to be walking side by side simultaneously like this and be on the same page. Now, for some folks, it's like this, right? There's a lot of human development and emotional development and not really any spiritual development. For a lot of folks, it's like this, because once you start developing your spiritual path, you realize how fun it is, how rewarding it is. It feels so good to be in the 5D. Sometimes it doesn't feel as good to be in the 3D, where you have to like take out the trash and go to the dentist and deal with people's malarkey. But we have to, because what we're here to do is to take where we came from and then walk our path as we evolve and become enlightened. And we're walking the spiritual path. At the same time, we're walking the human path, and we begin to get to the point where we are walking them together. And that's when we really get where we're going in each incarnation. But you can't have a now, and you can't have a future if you don't have a past. And you have to have a beginning to your path. It can't just be, let me tell you something. Before I was 30, everything sucked. Well, that's a third of your life. That's not what Spirit wants. Spirit wants us to look at our past and say, here are things that I love about it. Here are things that I did not love, so I worked to change, or I did change it. But I still understand how important it was that I started in that place, because it's for a reason. Look, we moved a lot when I was a kid. My dad got transferred, we would move. It made me decidedly unhappy. I gained weight. I started to stop doing well in school. I became kind of a sullen, introverted, isolated kid, because I hated always being new. I hated the first day of walking to that school, and everybody knew each other from nursery school, and I didn't know anybody, and I had to work to make friends. But that turned out to be not only one of the best things about me, but one of the best things, most beneficial things about my childhood, was that I learned to always be able to make a friend no matter where I was. I learned to rely on myself no matter where I was. I learned to make my own happy. It turned out to be a great thing about me. We all have things that we look back on our childhoods and we're like, But those things make you who you are now. That's why you have to thank the narcissists, thank the bullies, thank your parents that didn't understand you, thank the teacher that didn't get you, thank the pastor that was talking about something that you thought was crazy and didn't believe in. Because all of those things, all of those where you came from things, all of those things made you who you are. And that's awesome. Right? There is a saying, if you don't know where you came from, how do you know where you're going? And that's true. If you don't know where you came from, how do you know where you're going? How do you know what's next? How do you know where you're supposed to be in life if you can't see the trajectory of where you've come from? So you have to be proud of that. And I find that folks sometimes in our beautiful queer community, right, in our LGBTQIP2SAA community, sometimes we like to think in before and afters, right? Before queerdom and after queerdom, BQ and AQ. And I understand that, because when you really get on your road, when you really figure out who you are, when you come out of all the closets you have to come out of, you really come into your own. I understand the feeling of being reborn, the feeling that that is when your life has really begun. But you can't forget that time before. You can't forget the before queer. You can't forget who you were, because that person is who you are. That person informs who you are, right? If it wasn't for that person, you wouldn't be who you are now. You have to be proud of where you came from. And that means your spirituality. It means your upbringing. It means choices that you made, things that you did. Be proud, because that's what you did at the time, right? Don't think of a third of your life or however many years of your life as, oh, just a wash. That's all ridiculous. I don't like any of that. There were beautiful times during that time. You laughed, right? You loved. You made connections with other people. You hug your animal companions. We're not meant to throw out chunks of our life. We are not meant to compartmentalize ourselves. We're not meant to think of ourselves as, this part of me was okay, this part of me was not. That's not what Spirit wants for us. Spirit wants you to be able to look back at your young self and say, hey, you, good job. You did the best you could do. I'll take it from here. You need to be proud of where you came from and be proud of who you are. And let me tell you something. As you evolve and become more enlightened and walk that path, you're not going to be the same person. Probably in 10 years, probably in 20 years, definitely in 30 years. This is why it's so hard to make relationships last a lifetime, whether they're platonic, romantic, professional, family, because you're always evolving and someone has to evolve with you. Or you leave them behind, they leave you behind, you're not on the same page anymore, and that's hard. You are walking a beautiful path, but you're changing as you go. You know? So let's just give a physical example, because sometimes a physiological example is easier. Let's say you decided for whatever reason, right? Maybe you're doing it as a charity fundraiser. Maybe you're doing it as a spiritual experience. Maybe you're doing it on a dare. You decide, I'm going to walk across the country. I'm going to start in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, and I'm going to walk until I'm in the heart of Manhattan. And I'm not going to accept rides, and I'm not going to take public transportation. I'm going to walk. And let's say it takes you a month, 2 months, however long it takes. You are going to be a different person when you get to New York than you were when you left Los Angeles. Now, there's nothing wrong with who you were, nothing wrong with who you were when you started, but just the experiences of the things you see and the people you encounter and the changes in physicality within your body and the things you sort out in your head when you have a lot of time to walk and think, and maybe some huge spiritual revelations that will come along the way. You are going to be a different person when you land in Manhattan than you were when you left LA. This is how it's supposed to be. We are meant to constantly be evolving. We are meant to constantly be changing. And we're never the same. It's funny because people always say, what were the best years of your life? It's a big thing we talk about, right? What are the best years of your life? And it's so strange to me. I've always thought it was so strange because if I look back on my life, either calendar years, right? January to December, or birthday years. For me, April 2nd to April 1st. I don't know. It just seems like every year was kind of half awful and half wonderful. Because every year, things that are not so great happen and things that are great happen. And every year, I'm different than I was the year before. But here in the present, in the now, where we're supposed to live, I like myself every day. Very few days would I tell you, whoa, it's awful. I mean, occasionally. We all have lousy days, right? When I look back on things sometimes, I'm like, wow, that was a rough time that maybe I didn't even notice when I was living in the now. But every year came with it challenges, right, and gifts. The agony and the ecstasy, right? The hard times and the joys. but for having survived both the good and the bad, I'm different. Every time we overcome an obstacle, every time we embrace a gift, we grow. And as we grow, we change. And it's perfectly okay to say, I don't want to go back and be 12 again. I have no urge to go back to high school again. I don't want to go back to my senior year of college again. You couldn't pay me to be 29 again. It's okay to say those things. But you still have to be proud of where you come from. Proud of where you came from. Proud of how it started. Proud of your road. Proud of your path. Proud of your growth. Even maybe if you say, God, I look back and there were 5 years of my life, man, I wasn't even growing. I don't know what I was doing. I was stuck in addiction, or I had shut the voice of God out. Whatever the story is, this was not a time I would want to go back to. Not a time I'm terribly proud of. Okay. But you still have to be proud of the fact that you were there. You got on your path and you got through it. That is being proud of where you came from. You don't have to say, oh God, I wish I was there again. I wish I was. I wish it would all come back. And you don't have to say, oh, I wish I'd never grown past that. I wish I was still 5. Some people do. I have people, clients, all kinds of folks I talk with. They say, I wish I was still 10 years old. It was the easiest time of my life. To which I say to them, it is time to get on your path and live in the now. I can't think of any place I wish I was right now in my life, except for right here. And this has been a hard couple of years with COVID. With the lockdown, I had COVID. I have COVID again right now. As you could tell, because I'm a little sniffly. I got little snifflies. Still, there's no place else I'd rather be than right here, right now, proud of my path, proud of my beginnings, proud of how I've overcome my challenges, proud of how I've worked to get where I am, and in anticipation of where I'm going, how much more evolved I can become, how much more enlightened I can become, how much more further down the path I can walk. That's exciting. And that's a very important thing for you to get to on your road, right? When I tap into spirit, sometimes when I work with angels and guides and spirit, oftentimes the messages they're relaying to people I'm working with and to me is give yourself a break. We're so hard on ourselves. We don't give ourselves a break. And we expect so much from ourselves. I think we forget sometimes that this is a teaching planet. Like I said earlier, we're here to grow. We're here to fall down and skin our knees and get back up again and figure it out. And then, slip on the ice and fall again and reskin our knees and get up again and figure it out. We're not expected to get through it without any obstacles the first time, figure it all out right away, and then it's just smooth sailing. I love when people say to me, when does it ever end? The challenges, when? Never. It's a teaching planet. We're growing and we're changing, right? But you have to enjoy the path along the way. Have you ever gone on a vacation and you were so obsessed with everything you had to see and do on the vacation that you didn't even have fun on the vacation? I have been to Disneyland with people who have the park so mapped out. They have every single second of their time in that park mapped out. They're not even enjoying their vacation. They're just clutching the map and making sure they check this and check that and check. There's no, what? Some people live their lives like that. They're white knuckling it through the whole thing. And putting so much pressure on themselves. And God wants you to put less pressure on yourself. Be a devout person, be a good person, be a loving person, be somebody who is respectful of the challenges and the obstacles that a higher power has thrown at you to overcome. But we're not supposed to be white knuckling through our entire life. We're supposed to be enjoying our life. Are we here to do work? Yes. Are we here to overcome obstacles? Yes. Are we here to figure out things and learn lessons? Yes. But we're also here to really enjoy our lives, right? To laugh and love and eat and take hot baths and make love and watch movies. And we're supposed to have a beautiful, fun time while we're here. That's why we're in this body, right? It can see things and it can hear things, it can taste and it can feel. And you're really getting this visceral sensory experience while you're here. That's half the fun of Earth. We're not meant to put such a checklist in front of us and such high demands on ourselves that we never enjoy our lives. And to pick apart and negate every single thing from our past, whether it's our way back past or our yesterday past. Putting so much pressure on us so that we don't get to enjoy anything. How was your childhood? It was ridiculous. Wow, that's a lot of time here. Those are precious days that God has given you on this planet. And you're negating however many of them with, Be thankful. I know I talked about that so many months. I've talked about this. I think it's the Saturday Night Spiritual tagline, be thankful. Be thankful for every single day you've got on this earth. Everything you've survived, everything that's made you stronger. And then take this evolved, more enlightened. I will speak for myself. I will take my evolved, more enlightened 55-year-old self. And I will go back and find that little 9-year-old kid who had just moved to Baltimore, Maryland, and was very unhappy in the corduroy toughskins. And say, you know what, baby? I love you. I'm proud of you. You did the best that you could do. You made the best out of a situation that wasn't always great. And I'm so thankful for you. Because of you, we evolved into me. And I thank you for that. One of the things that God really wants for us in our lives is consistency, right? And we talk about that a lot with our spirituality, right? Am I consistent in my spirituality? Am I touching base with God every day? Am I touching base with my faith and beliefs every day? Am I acting the way that I believe that Spirit wants me to act on a daily basis? Am I being a good person? Am I being a devout person? Am I being an honest person? Am I being honest with myself? Am I being somebody who loves and takes care of myself and loves and takes care of other people in that order? Usually we're pretty good about that. Sometimes we white knuckle through that a little bit, but I believe that spirituality is easier than the 3D life. The 5D is easier every time than the 3D. So I think we're pretty good with that most of the time. Are we doing those same check-ins as a human being? Right? Have I reconciled my past? Have I made peace with it? Can I tell it that I love it? Am I happy and thankful and proud of where I came from because it made me who I am today? These are things. that we need to work on. These are things that are harder for us. It's hard for us as human beings to look back at a time in our lives that causes a lot of pain and find the good, find the beauty, find the pearl in the oyster. We don't like that. We're very black and white, Homo sapiens. We want to either say everything was great or everything sucked. We don't want to say this was a hard time. But guess what beautiful thing came out of this time? All those years unhappy in Baltimore. Probably the worst time in my life, living in a very active, negative, haunted house. My mom and I became very close. And that's when I realized that I really wanted to be an actor and began to start my life moving forward with a plan as an artist. Wishing more than anything we could move to Los Angeles. And then lo and behold, my dad got transferred to Los Angeles. So it's hard to look back at that time and think, it's all awful. I had a very good friend, Amy, who I love very much to this day. I was very thankful to have her then. Many nights we stayed up watching scary movies, eating cheese popcorn until we felt sick, watching TV and reading all the magazines of the celebrities in them. That helped to form who I was. That hard time set me up for the next phase of my life, moving to Los Angeles when I was 13. So I'm so thankful for that time. I'm so thankful for that girl. It's okay to look backwards. You can't spend your life looking backwards, and you can't spend your life living for the future. You have to live in the now and be happy every day. Am I happy today? Was today a good day? When I put my head on the pillow tonight, can I say this was a good day? But you also can't erase that, because that's part of what made you who you are. That time, this time, being proud of where you came from. That's so much what Spirit wants for us. Be proud of where you came from. Please take that with you. I am the Reverend Sheena Metal. This is Saturday Night Spiritual. We're at SaturdayNightSpiritual.com. I am at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. And of course, you can find us at foundersmcc.org, on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page. And if you go to RevSheenaFoundersMCC.com, you will find a link to a page on my website that has all of the services, the title of the sermons, and you can click on them and you can watch all the Saturday Night Spirituals if you want. In all its different incarnations, including this, our current COVID incarnation. It's RevSheenaFoundersMCC.com. You can find me everywhere on social media. I'm Sheena Metal. And I'll be back next month talking probably about a little gay pride, because it'll be Gay Pride Month here in Los Angeles. I'm thankful and so honored to be a part of Founders MCC. Thank you to Pastor Keith Mazingo for giving me this and putting me where I am. And I can't wait to see you all next month. Of course, please, donations are welcome. Help us to help you. You can go to foundersmcc.org and go to the donate page. Please write in Saturday Night Spiritual so they know maybe you like this sermon a little bit, this service. I'd appreciate that. And it's been wonderful to share this time with you. And I can't wait to see you next month. We know I always end with a poem. This month's poem is by George MacDonald. It's called Where Did You Come From, Baby Dear? Where did you come from, baby dear? Out of the everywhere into here. Where did you get your eyes so blue? Out of the sky as I came through. What makes the light in them sparkle and spin? Some of the starry spikes are still left in. Where did you get that little tear? I found it waiting when I got here. What makes your forehead so smooth and high? A soft hand stroked it as I went by. What makes your cheek like a warm white rose? I saw something better than anyone knows. Whence that three-cornered smile of bliss? 3 angels gave me at once a kiss. Where did you get that pearly ear? God spoke, and it came out to hear. Where did you get those arms and hands? Love made itself into hooks and bands. Feet, whence did you come from, you darling things? From the same box as the cherub's wings. How did they all just come to be you? God thought about me, and so I grew. But how did you come to us, you dear? God thought about you, and so I am here. This is Saturday Night Spiritual. I'm the Reverend Sheena Metal. I love you all, and I'll see you next month. Take care of you. Be proud of where you come from.